May salang tiradyo sa Pilipinas. Usalangbay ang radyo. DZRH Nationwide at Radyo Natin Network ng Manila Broadcasting Company. Sa Pilipinas, iisa lang ang radyo.
Manila Broadcasting Company.
Dibisyon ng Biliran Alternative Learning System kasama ang buong kagawaran ng edukasyon at kaagapay ang pamahalaan ng probinsya ng Biliran ay buong pusong inihahandog ang programang pangradyo na pinamagatang Als Radyo Eskwela. Ito ay inyong mapapakinggan tuwing Lunes at Biyernes sa ganap na alas 11 hanggang alas 11:30 ng umaga dito lamang sa 103.9 Radyo Natin FM. Walang makahahadlang, walang maiiwan sa alternative learning system. Tiyak na may pag-asa, sama-samang lilipad para maabot ang pangarap sa hamong kinakaharap. Patuloy na aangat, edukasyon para sa lahat. Sulong edukalidad. Ito ang DepEd Als Radyo Eskwela ng Dibisyon ng Biliran.
To our avid listeners out there, a pleasant morning with learnings and fresh insights brought to you by Alternative Learning System of Biliran Division. Welcome to another episode of Als Radyo Eskwela, only here at 103.9 Radyo Natin FM, Naval, Biliran, every Monday and Friday of the week at exactly 11 to 11:30 in the morning. I am Teacher Lester from Kawayan District 2, your radio teacher for today. And with me to help you learn another relevant topic this morning, we have Teacher Diane, my partner of today's episode. Good morning, Teacher Diane. Looking great today.
Thank you very much, Sir Lester, for a smooth introduction. Good morning as well, and my morning greetings to everyone who are listening today, especially to our beloved Als learners and implementers of Biliran Division. It's such an overwhelming feeling being part of this new episode of imparting learnings and fresh insights through Radio Eskwela. I would like to encourage everyone to participate the session by listening attentively, following us at our live stream on Facebook page at 103.9 Radyo Natin, Naval, Biliran.
If you have to take bladder break, you may do it now before we start the discussion in a while, because we want to make sure that wherever you are, as we start our lesson, you feel comfortable and can clearly hear the broadcast. May I ask if you have eaten already? It is best to eat your meal before our class on air will start so that you can focus and have an alert mind for better understanding and comprehension of today's topic.
Our lesson for today is to identify reporting and reducing risk and hazards in the workplace. Are you ready to learn today? Very good.
And now, ready your pen, notebook, and My Day Life Skills Module 5, Safety and Health at Work, and turn to page 2 to 24.
As Teacher Lester told you earlier, today we are going to identify reporting and reducing risk and hazards in the workplace. Now, sit back and relax, because today is going to be fun and relevant Friday learning experience.
Before we go further, let me share with you a famous quotation that we all know. Safety starts with awareness, and awareness starts with you. Meaning to say, safety is an important part of our daily lives and it's important to be aware of potential safety issues at all times and consciously act safety's best interest to avoid casualties and free from harm or danger. So, wherever you are, at home or at work, always keep safe.
And before we formally start our lesson, let us first proceed to our segment, Tanong Ko, Sagot Mo. All you have to do is to listen to today's given scenario, and a question will be read for you to answer in order to win a 50 pesos load coming from a generous sponsor. Are you ready? Please listen attentively for you to answer the question correctly.
Alice is a 19-year-old dishwasher at Font Restaurant. To clean the cooking pans, she soaks them in a powerful chemical solution. She uses gloves to protect her hands and arms. One day, as Alice was lifting 3 large pans out of the sink at once, they slipped out of her hands and back into the sink. The cleaning solution splashed all over her face and got into her right eye. She was blinded in that eye for 2 weeks.
Let me repeat the situation. Alice is a 19-year-old dishwasher at Font Restaurant. To clean the cooking pans, she soaks them in a powerful chemical solution. She uses gloves to protect her hands and arms. One day, as Alice was lifting 3 large pans out of the sink at once, they slipped out of her hands and back into the sink. The cleaning solution splashed all her face and got into her right eye. She was blinded in that eye for 2 weeks.
Based on the given scenario, what do you think is the type of hazard that caused Alice blindness for 2 weeks? And what solution can you think of that can prevent such injury from happening again? Let me repeat the questions. What do you think is the type of hazard that caused Alice blindness for 2 weeks? And what solution can you think of that can prevent such injury from happening again? Kindly text your answer to this number 0927-8454-349 so that we will know your thoughts on this matter and win 50 pesos load from us. Again, just text your answer on this number 0927-8454-349.
Every workplace has hazards. In order to manage workplace health and safety and help prevent accidents and sickness absence, it is important to identify, then monitor to control and reduce the risk associated with workplace hazards.
Workplace hazards are any aspects of work that cause health and safety risk and have the potential to harm.
There are many types of workplace hazards, which tend to come under 6 main categories.
We start from the safety hazards. When we say safety hazards, these are hazards that create unsafe working condition that can cause injury, illness, and death. These include hot surface, slippery floors, unsafe ladders, sharp knives, machines without protection, falling objects, and the likes.
Again, safety hazards are the most common workplace risk and unsafe working conditions that can cause injury, illness, and death.
Next, we have chemical hazards. Chemical hazards are hazardous substances that can cause harm and result in both health and physical impacts, such as skin irritation, respiratory system irritation, blindness, corrosion, and explosion.
Cleaning products, pesticides, solvents, acids, gasoline, mercury are few of its examples.
Once again, when we say chemical hazards, this may refer to hazardous substances that can cause harm and result in both health and physical impact.
Another Another type of hazard is called biological hazard. These are living things that can cause diseases such as flu, AIDS, hepatitis, and TB. Examples: bacteria, viruses, or insects. In the workplace, you can be exposed to biological hazards through contact with used needles, sick people, animals, etc.
I repeat, when we say biological hazards, this includes viruses, bacteria, insects, animals, etc. that can cause adverse health impact.
Then we have physical hazards. These are environmental factors that can harm an employee without necessarily touching them, including heights, noise, radiation, and pressure.
Again, when we say physical hazards, these are environmental factors that can harm an individual without necessarily touching them, including height, noise, radiation, and pressure.
We also have the so-called psychosocial hazards. Psychosocial hazards include those that can have an adverse effect on mental health and well-being, such as sexual harassment, victimization, stress, and workplace violence.
I repeat, psychosocial hazards include those that can have an adverse effect on mental health and well-being of a person, such as sexual harassment, victimization, stress, and workplace violence.
And lastly, we have ergonomic hazards. Ergonomic hazards are physical factors that harm the musculoskeletal system, such as repetitive movement, manual handling, and poor body positioning.
Again, ergonomic hazards are results of physical factors that can result in musculoskeletal injuries. For example, a poor workstation setup in the office, poor posture, and manual handling and repetitive movement.
There you have it, our dear Als learners. The 6 different categories of hazards that need to be familiarized so you can confidently identify them in your workplace and for you to avoid accidents and free from harm and danger. Namely, the safety hazards, chemical hazards, biological hazards, the physical hazards, the psychosocial hazards, and the ergonomic hazards.
At this point of time, let us try to apply what you have learned from our discussion today. Listen to the situation carefully, then identify what are the types of hazards present in the given scenario. Again, you have to identify what are the type of hazards present in the given scenario. Do you understand? Okay, here is our situation.
Ruben works in the field spraying pesticides on crops without proper protective clothes and equipment. After a few days of spraying, Ruben became very ill. His eyes burned, his chest hurt, he had difficulties breathing, and he felt dizzy. His friends took him to the health clinic, but a week later, he was still having chest pains and difficulties in breathing. What did you think happened to Ruben? What hazard do you think is present in the situation that affect the health of Ruben?
Again, Ruben works in the field spraying pesticides on crops without proper protective clothes and equipment. After a few days of spraying, Ruben became very ill. His eye burned, his chest hurt, he had difficulties in breathing, and he felt dizzy. His friends took him to the health clinic, but a week later, he was still having chest pains and difficulties in breathing. What did you think happened to Ruben? What hazard do you think is present in the situation that affect the health of Ruben?
Correct. Ruben became very ill because he was exposed to the chemical from the pesticides that he always used in spraying his crops without using protective clothing and equipment. What type of hazard is spraying pesticides? Very good. Spraying pesticides is a type of chemical hazard that can harm our health. What are other examples of chemical hazards? Good job! You have learned a lot from our lesson today.
And for your final activity, today you are going to answer 5 test items on identifying the types of hazards that you learned a while ago. Are you ready? Great! Let's start.
For number 1, what type of hazard that cause diseases such as flu, AIDS, hepatitis, and etc.? Again, what type of hazard that can cause diseases such as flu, AIDS, hepatitis, and etc.? A. Biological hazards. B. Chemical hazards. C. Safety hazards. Or D. Ergonomic hazards.
And for number 2, which of the following is a type of chemical hazards? Again, which of the following is a type of chemical hazards? A. Gasoline. B. Viruses. C. Solvents. Or D. Stress.
Next item. What hazards that can cause immediate accidents and injuries? I repeat. What hazards that can cause immediate accidents and injuries? A. Biological hazards. B. Safety hazards. C. Chemical hazards. Or D. Psychosocial hazards.
Number 4. Which of the following occupational situations is more likely to be exposed to chemical hazards? Again, which one of the following occupational situations are more likely to be exposed to chemical hazards? A. Daycare worker. B. Street sweeper. C. Bank teller. D. Oil rig worker.
For item number 5, what type of hazards have an adverse effect on mental health or well-being? Again, what type of hazards have an adverse effect on mental health or well-being? A. Ergonomic hazards. B. Physical hazards. C. Psychosocial hazards. Or D. Safety hazards.
Now let's proceed to number 6. Which of the following is an example of ergonomic hazards? I repeat, which of the following is an example of ergonomic hazards? A. Repetitive movement. B. Harmful plants. C. Radiation. Or D. Exposed wires.
For number 7, the following are not examples of chemical hazards except for. Again, the following are not examples of chemical hazards except for A. Sexual harassment. Stress and workplace violence. B. Noise, radiation and pressure. C. Poor posture and manual handling. Or D. Gas, solvent, and acids.
And for the last number, what type of hazards that can harm an employee without necessarily touching them, including height, noise, radiation, and pressure? I will repeat, what type of hazards that can harm an employee without necessarily touching them, including height, noise, radiation, and pressure? A. Psychosocial hazards. B. Physical hazards. C. Biological hazards. D. Ergonomic hazards.
Now it's time to check your answers. If you get a passing scores, then that will be great. If you fail, well, no worries. You can still relearn our discussion today by visiting our Facebook page where our session was recorded and posted for reviews, and just visit 103.9 Radyo Natin, Naval, Biliran.
For item number 1, the correct answer is letter A. Biological hazards are living things that can cause diseases such as flu, AIDS, hepatitis, and etc. Again, The correct answer for number 1 is letter A, biological hazards.
The correct answer for test item number 2 is letter A again. Gasoline is an example of chemical hazards that can harm us, most especially our health. The correct answer for number 2 is letter A.
For number 3, the correct answer is letter B, safety hazards. These are hazards that can cause immediate accidents and injuries. Again, the correct answer for number 3 is letter B.
The correct answer for item number 4 is letter D. Oil rig workers are more likely exposed to chemical hazards. I repeat, letter D is the correct answer for number 4.
For item number 5, the correct answer is psychosocial hazards. Again, the correct answer of item number 5 is letter C, psychosocial hazards.
For question number 6, letter A, repetitive movement is the correct answer. Again, letter A is the correct answer of number 6.
And for number 7, the correct answer is letter D. Gas, solvent, and acids are examples of chemical hazards. Again, the examples of chemical hazards are gas, solvent, and acids. Letter D. And for the last item, the correct answer is letter B, physical hazards. Again, the correct answer for test item 8 is letter B, physical hazards.
Counter scores, and for those who got passing scores, congratulations, keep up the good work. You deserve that. And for those who did not pass the test today, don't forget to relearn our session by watching the recorded FB Live at our page and continue assessing yourself until you master the lesson.
And now, just to make sure we are on the same page, let us do a recap of the 6 main categories of workplace hazards. What are those? Can you still remember?
The 6 main categories of workplace hazards we discussed are the safety hazards, chemical hazards, biological hazards, physical hazards, psychosocial hazards, and ergonomic hazards. And for more information about the different types of hazards in the workplace, you can refer to your MyDev Life Skills Module 5 on safety and health at work for more review. Now, are we good with that?
Okay, but before we end our session today, let us read first the responses of our listeners from the question presented earlier about what do you think is the type of hazard that caused Alice blindness for 2 weeks, and what solution can you think that can prevent such injury from happening again? According to Aurora Moran from Larasabal Naval Biliran, acid is the type of hazard that present in the given situation, and acid is a type of chemical hazard. And according to her, use protective eye gear in order to prevent such injury from happening again. Congratulations! Since you actively participated that you are first who sent answers to our question during our segment Tanong Ko Sagot Mo, you will receive 50 pesos load coming from Zachary Party Needs located at Barangay Bunga, Kabukgayan, Biliran.
That's all for today. I hope you've learned a lot from us. And before we bid goodbye, please always tune in to our educational morning radio show, Als Radyo Eskwela, every Monday and Friday of the week at 11 to 11:30 in the morning. Only here at 103.9 Radyo Natin FM, Naval, Biliran.
And that ends our session for today's my beloved Als learners. Once again, this is Teacher Lester from Kawayan District 2, which leaves you a message that despite this pandemic, let us all stay positive and make sure that the fun and learning must continue.
And this is Teacher Diane saying God bless and stay safe, everyone.
Dibisyon ng Biliran Alternative Learning System kasama ang buong kagawaran ng edukasyon at